If you thought that the running back and quarterback class for this draft were cooked and just looked absolutely horrible, then wait until we get to the tight end class, because it is not looking much better. Welcome on in, everybody, to another video. Today we're going to be doing another 2026 NFL draft rankings video as draft season continues on. Only about 3 more weeks until the draft, about 2-3 more weeks, so we gotta get through the rankings as we start with my number 10 for this class, and that is Jack Velling, Michigan State tight end. A fun and interesting prospect. As we look at the number 10 through probably number 8 or even number 7, it's more of some of the guys I think have traits to possibly be starters in the future, but you're really looking at low floors for these tight ends. So that is what I wanted to preface this with. As we get to the top 6, top 5, it's more consensus, but right here, number 10, Jack Velling, Michigan State, a tight end who formerly we thought was going to go in the first or the second round, say last year around this time, ended up falling. There is some injury stuff with him, I believe. Nothing crazy, I don't think, but there's a couple of other things that we got to get into. The 6'5", 244 frame, nice. A little bit undersized when it comes to the arm and hand size. You more look for that to be about 35-inch long arms. You're looking for about 10 inches for hands, and he is 23 years old, so a bit of an older player in this draft. 4 years, he transferred from Oregon State, so he does have experience. That's always good for a tight end, but he is starting off with probably the lowest floor that I've even graded this entire draft, and I don't think we're going to find another player with such a low floor. But he does have a decent ceiling, with the pro comp being Harrison Bryant. I do think we could see a Harrison Bryant. I do think we could see a little bit of a better player out of him, but I don't think the sky's the limit for him. I think you have a decent ceiling if you draft a guy like this, and if you do draft a guy like this, he's going round 7, or you grab him up as a undrafted free agent, a UDFA, and you just kind of see what he has. You're not going to throw, he's going to be tight end 3, tight end 4 to start, and he's going to need some guidance. You want to work up his traits and see what he's got, but overall, I do like the profile. As we look down, we will check out the athletic tools, the C+ speed, nothing crazy, still pretty decent for a tight end. The acceleration's decent, agility, change of direction's fine. The play strength is one of his weakest points. You'll end up seeing a couple of F grades. There's some things that these tight ends do somewhat decently solid, and then there's other things that are just absolutely, they struggle with. So that is one of them. Play strength, he, for being 6'5", 244, does not play like it. I will say that. It is not very good at all, and was one of the weaker points. For a guy like Jack Velling, you can really compare him out to Harrison Bryant because of the athletic tools and the receiving skills and the size profile. But then where he, continues to show those similarities is the blocking. The blocking for a tight end should be good, but he's more of a receiving tight end. So that is one of the main points that he struggles with. If we go over and take a look at the blocking, the run block gets a D-. The run block strength, not much better. The technique looks pretty decent, and then the tenacity is nothing crazy. Pass blocking as well, not very good. But one of the best points that he has is the receiving skills. He's got very nice hands. He's able to route run decently. He can catch in traffic good, just like you see, what you like to see. The catch radius could be better, and that could be improved upon with his size. And the run after the catch can be improved upon, especially with the speed. So what you're getting with a guy like this is more than likely a practice squad type of guy who's going to fight to make the roster, but who has some decent potential. Do I think he's going to be some tight end 1 on a team one day? No, I don't really think so. I think his ceiling is maybe a high-end tight end too. But at the same time, if you're looking around at this draft, and this is the reason why I put him on my board, if you're looking around at this draft and you see some of these answers, there's not very exciting tight ends. Like, where we're talking about Justin Joly from NC State, and he is not very exciting at all. But they do certain things good, and that's what teams are going to look for. Can they fit into my scheme? All right, so Jack Velling has decent receiving skills and athletic tools. He can either be converted to a receiver, or we can just end up using him on certain receiving plays and not have him block as much. Or you have a 2 tight end set, have him go out and receive, have another tight end go out and block for you. So that's kind of what I see. Jack Velling is going to need to fit very much into a specific scheme for him to be able to work as an NFL caliber tight end, and I could see a world where he ends up not working out because a lot of people aren't as high as I am on him, but I do really like him a lot. Went back to my face. Anyway, it's not where I was trying to go. As we get to my tight end number 9, a guy I like a lot better. So we take a look back. No, there we go. From going from a 5.30 grade to a 5.65 with Oscar Delp. Another guy, just like Velling, who last year we were probably talking about him maybe going in the second round or so. Fell down a lot, but I like the ceiling with a player like Delp, especially because Georgia, you guys know, they produce these very nice tight ends. Going back a couple years, you got Brock Bowers. You also have, what's his name for the Steelers, who I'm now totally blanking on. But they are a tight end making machine at University of Georgia. So that's what I think of when I see Delp as well. But then you got to check out his skills. Make sure they check out 6'5", 245. Similar frame to Velling, and then similar with the arms and hands, a little bit undersized there. 23 years old, so he's experienced, a little bit older as well. 4 years, all at Georgia, no transfers there. Rounds 6 to 7 is where I end up valuing him at. And I do think even grabbing him up in round 6 would be a good value pick for a team once all the other tight ends are off the board. The pro comp I give him is Cade Otton, a solid ceiling for the archetype player that he is. And then the impact grade is not as low as a player like Velling. I still think he's got a somewhat decent floor to be a tight end too, and may I say possibly a tight end one day. This is where we start getting into the territory. Going through the athletic tools and such, he's a bit of a more well-rounded player than a player like Velling. B-speed, that's more on the level you'd like to see for a tight end that ends up struggling with most things in blocking, but has alright receiving skills. Like, you want to see that even when he's getting out there, he still has the speed and tenacity to be able to make plays on the front end. The Excel, B-, fine. The agility, change of direction, and play strength are very much subpar. Not very excited to see that when you watch his tape. But then you get to the receiving skills, and he does have very nice hands. Same as Velling. For his size, you'd like to see that with the B+ for hands. And then the D+ for route running. That's got to be improved upon. That's something that can continue to be improved upon. The catch in traffic is fine, can be a bit better. And the catch radius should definitely be improved upon, man. It was really troublesome to watch that. He does not use his body weight and height to his advantage against defenders. He wasn't really a mismatch at Georgia. They would more... I mean, it was a bit of a down season as well for them, so you got to take that into effect. Carson Beck transfers away. You got a new quarterback slinging you the ball. So Delp was not as productive, but the catch radius, so even for the underthrown plays, like the underthrown balls, still wasn't really making the effort to use his body to his advantage against defenders, and I think that's something that really, really, really needs to be emphasized when a team drafts him. Work on that catch radius. The run after the catch can be improved upon, especially with the speed. The blocking, he struggles at, but he is better than some of the guys that we'll see in here who are just horrible blockers, such as Jack Velling. Man, I am really ripping on him. He's still a solid prospect. I like him as a fringe tight end 10, tight end 11 in this draft. Just it's really going to be the measurables. It's really going to be the traits for him to reach that ceiling. With a guy like Oscar Delp, there's more that's shown on film in previous seasons, so that's something that we kind of look at as well. But when you see the run blocking, that's fine. See, it's all right. Run block strength can be improved upon, especially for the size. The technique is fine. The tenacity, very, very nice watching that on film. Probably one of the best things that he does is have tenacity out there. He's like a go-getter type of player. To be able to make those run back plays, and the passing block plays are not too good with the C-. Nothing special there. But as I said before, a player that I like a decent amount more than Velling. Still grades out overall a decent bit better. You got to take into account the size, the arm and hand profile. He spent all 4 years at Georgia. Like I said, the quarterback change. And then the potential grade, I see it as an 83. I don't see it being too much higher than that. As I said before, probably going to start off as a tight end 3. Tight end 2 is easily like the floor that I see him being able to reach in due time. And then, who knows, maybe a possible starting tight end on a team someday, although I don't think he'd be an amazing starter in the same way that Cade Otton is. So that is all I have to say about Delp. He is one of my studs in this class, one of the guys I really like a lot. I throw the stud icon next to, and Oscar Delp is one of them. So look out for him, keep an eye out. As we get to my tight end 8B, And that is Justin Joly, who's like a tight end 6 on a lot of lists. I don't really like him. Another tight end who struggles so much with the blocking. Before we get into that, though, we'll check out a couple of other things. He does get graded for me higher than Delp. And that is mostly because of the receiving skills and the athletic tools and the hand and arms. 6'3", 263, a good bit undersized for a tight end while still being in like the fine tier. The arm and hand is one of the better ones we've seen so far. And then 22 years old, 4 years, all spent at, NC State. Transfer, he spent 2 years at UConn, 2 years at NC State. He gets a 5.90 grade with the draft value being around 5 to 6. I do think if you get him in 6, that's a good value. Where I think he goes is probably around 5. Pro comp Irv Smith, I do think he's a bit of a more juiced up version of Irv Smith, but that's kind of where I see his ceiling being with the 79 overall grade. Fine floor, fine ceiling, not a player that you're expecting a crazy amount from. Most likely going to be drafted into a team where they're going to utilize him for specific skill sets, and obviously blocking is not going to be one of them, but his receiving skills just as veiling. I said a team is going to end up, one being needing to be a really good scheme fit, 2 ending up going to be need to be a really good team where he can end up, you don't have to worry about the blocking so much, and you can more worry just about what athletic tools he brings to the table, receiving skills. I do think with the undersized nature, another player I could see switching over to receiver, although it does seem like he is better off being a tight end. And then whatever team drafts him just has to work on a lot of that blocking stuff with the run block strength, everything just really poor across the board besides the tenacity. I wanted to give him a decent grade there. But let's get into some of the things that Justin Joly does actually pretty good, and that is the athletic tools. B- for the speed, nothing crazy, but still being pretty good. B, excel. B- agility. C, change of direction, and the play strength, D+. With the size profile, he is kind of mismatched against most linebackers, mismatched against even corners sometimes down the field. Yeah, not something you want to see. You want to see him add some weight. Obviously, can't change how tall he is, but can definitely work on that weight, and the arm and hand profile is already there for him. So then we can get into his receiving skills as well. Looking first at the route running with the C+ grade overall. It's fine. It can be improved upon. Route running is one of the things that can be improved upon, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would more be worried about on the athletic side with the play strength. Got to improve upon that. The A hands is nice to see. One of the best things that he does is use his hands. The A- catch in traffic is very nice, surprising for his size. You want to think a guy of his size would be able to catch in traffic really well, but he does. The B- catch radius, fine. Another thing that is surprisingly good, like you see a lot of guys, if they were usually 6'3", 250, 260 pounds, they wouldn't have as good of a catch radius, but pretty nice. Pretty, very, very nice, I will say, for Joly. And then the run after catch, pretty good as well. The receiving skills are nice, and as I said before, the athletic tools are nice. It's just for a guy like Justin Joly, it's really working on everything in that blocking department, and he could even exceed my potential grade, but I just kind of have him as this average 8B, not even getting into the 6.0 for overall grade yet. The height and weight really just throws me off, and then I just look at the blocking profile, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't see how people have him as a tight end 6, tight end 5 in this draft. Obviously, as I said before, the tight end class is not good, but still, if you're ranking, you gotta put them in the appropriate spot, and I do think he is more of an 8B. So, that's what I have to say about him. Work on that blocking. Could see an Irv Smith type of skill set out of him, and then at the same time, whatever team drafts him, it's going to be very scheme dependent. So they're most likely going to want him to just catch and run or use his speed and agility to his advantage and not want him to block, and that totally makes sense to me. So not sure what team entirely would be like a good fit for him, but I do know that they will probably end up just wanting to see that out of him, see the receiving usage and other things out of him. So that is all for Justin Joly. I'm kind of going through these guys a little bit quick. Nothing too exciting. Looking at some of the late guys, as we get further and further down, you'll end up seeing me, get a little bit more excited talking about some of these guys. But most of these dudes over on the back end, not too exciting to watch. Although Daquan Wright put him a little bit above Jolie, it was kind of due to the size profile, and it was due to certain things. Like, he's not really well-rounded, but the things that he does do good at are really important, such as having really great speed. But anyways, before I get into all of that, I want to introduce you to this guy, Daquan Wright. Played at Ole Miss, but he transferred from Virginia Tech, 22 years old, so he's a young guy. 6'4", 250. I do end up putting the studs here instead of, having him even in the good with the 250. Frame is pretty nice. 32 and a quarter inch arms, 9 and a quarter inch hands. That's a little bit below average. I would actually end up changing that 6'4", 250 to a good tier and not really having him kind of in that stud tier, because 6'4", 250 is a bit undersized for a tight end, but I still like the size profile and the arm and hands altogether better than I like a player like Jolie, even though his arms and hands are a bit bigger. And then transfer from Virginia Tech, I believe only played there for a season, maybe two. Then can't stop saying went to Ole Miss, ended up playing there, and showed some solid promise that a lot of people, when watching the tape, I don't think really see. Daquan Wright is a guy that usually isn't in the top 10s, but I do have him here, and he's like kind of like my tight end 7. But I threw him in the 8B, 8A because I kind of wanted to be able to match those guys up with the overall grades. I feel like it fit, and they did end up matching up when you combined all the grades together. So the A- speed is something you really like, as I was talking about earlier. The things that he does good, he does not just good, he does great at. A- speed, very fast guy. B+ excel. C- agility can be worked on. D, change of direction can be worked on. C, play strength can definitely be worked on for his size. The athletic tools are all there, pretty much outside of change of direction. Just gotta work on them. The receiving skills, as we look over, route running with the D- can definitely be worked on. Probably one of the worst things that he does outside of some of the blocking skill sets over there. But the hands, very nice with the B. C+ in traffic, C+ catch radius, and an A with the run after catch. Very nice. What you really like to see is the speed, the excel. Even the agility and the play strength are fine. The hands, that's very important. Route running is probably the next thing that you would want to see out of him, to just be able to work on that when he gets to the next level. And I could see a Chig I could see a juiced up Chig, but that's about as high of a ceiling as I see for him. I don't see him being some franchise-changing tight end 1 someday. I see him being a really nice tight end 2. I see him being a fringe tight end 1 who ends up, maybe spending a couple years with a team and then signs a decently sized contract, such as Chig did with the Washington Commanders now. So, like, say the Tennessee Titans end up drafting a guy like him, I'm like, okay, yeah, this makes sense, because they want a guy that's somewhat similar to the comp of Chig. So, but then, yeah, the run after catch, very important too. As we look over to the blocking, another guy, man, a lot of the tight ends in this class suck with the blocking. So if you do good with the blocking, man, you're getting a higher grade from me, because that is an important part of being a tight end. The athletic tools, the receiving skills, great, but you got to be able to block too. If not, a team's not going to want to draft you just based off of receiving and athletic tools. They want to draft a well-rounded prospect with a well-rounded profile. So D- run block, C- run block strength. Really, as you look down the list, he does nothing good when it comes to the blocking department, and that's really the reason that I dropped him. If not, I could see him being a tight end 6. Even I would have maybe even overlooked the route running in the change of direction. But just when you see the blocking combined with that, combined with the arm hand, like, you're seeing a pretty average prospect. You're not seeing anything world beater level. Like, you're watching the tape and you're like, all right, this is pretty average tight end who could maybe develop into something somewhat decent while not being game changing. So that's what I kind of see at a Daquan Wright. Personally, I didn't put the stud next to him, but he is one of the guys I really do like a lot in this draft, so keep an eye out for him, I would definitely say. But yeah, that is about all I have to say about Daquan Wright. And a very fun, interesting player. If you get to, go and watch him, because the speed is really, really fun to watch. But nothing else really to say about him. I hope he does end up developing into a Chig level player. I do think a team getting him would get some decent value out of him. So, but don't draft him in the 5th round. I say 6th round is great value for a player of his caliber. as we get to my overall tight end 6. And now we start getting into the well-rounded, more consensus guys, with Jack Andrews out of Texas. Played formerly at Cal, 22 years old, 4 years of experience, 6'4", 236. See more in that good tier, as he is a little bit undersized, but you know, not as big as a guy such as Daquan. But the 6'4", 236, that's fine, combined with 31 1/8 hands and 9 5/8, or 31 1/8 arms, 9 5/8 hands. I'm not going to go through the fractions of those every time, but combine those two, it's solid with a 6.05 total grade. It's about a 15-point bump. Yeah, about 15 points from our previous two guys, our 8B and 8A. A 70 overall, so when you get a guy like Andrews, you're getting a decent floor, and I even considered moving him up, except there's a couple of guys that I did like a bit better than him. So the B- speed, all there. That's completely fine for a guy of his size. C+ excel, got to work on that a little, but the athletic tools, you know, it's average, it's rounded out. C- with a change of direction, doesn't have to be crazy for a tight end as we go through the change of directions. I don't really take that too much into account, because for a tight end, are you really going to be the shiftiest guy in the world now? The play strength, solid as well. You know, nothing crazy. Play strength, excel, agility, change of direction, that can all be worked on. Mostly what I would like to see out of him is the play strength being worked on. And then the change of direction, that may come in time, it may not. He's not the shiftiest player in the world. He's more of a player that you could see being a blocking specialist, as he has the ability to catch and block, which is something, it's literally the first player we reviewed in this class that can do both of those things. So the C+ for the route running, that's fine, nothing crazy, but also not horrible. B+ for the hands, he has really nice hands, really nice catch in traffic, and a really nice catch radius for his 6'4", 236 frame. Really like to see that out of him. The C comes with the run after catch, so nothing crazy for the run after catch, but the route running is what we'd like to see. Moreover, would like to see that grade bumped up a good bit, but that comes with time. As I said before, a player with a good floor and a good ceiling. Dalton Schultz is who I compare him to. A player that ended up reaching his ceiling kind of in Dallas, then you see him kind of fall off a little bit, goes to the Texans. Andrews, I could see him end up, you know, reaching his ceiling, that 83 level of potential, and then he goes to another team, and he's just like, you know, average guy, still starter potential, obviously, but, you know, it depends for a guy like him. Dalton Schultz is an overall profile, but I'm not saying he's going to have the same career as him, so it's just something you got to think about. Say he ends up staying with a team, you know, as long as he learns the scheme, he learns everything, fits well onto the team, and continues to improve upon some of the things that he's good at, I see a very nice starting tight end out of him. That's what I see out of Andrews. And as we've seen in previous seasons, Texas usually has some somewhat decent tight ends come out of the draft, so nobody crazy that I can think about in the past, but still solid players that develop into overall well-rounded players, whether that's blocking or receiving. So, but we'll get into the blocking now with a C run block, a C- for the run block strength, a C+ for the run block technique, run block tenacity. If I could say run block one more time, my head might explode. And then the pass block, C-. So a much more well-rounded profile for the blocking outside of any of the guys we've looked at so far. You're not seeing D's, you're not seeing F's on there. You're seeing a lot better. The tenacity is good for a couple of these guys, but then it comes down to the technique and the overall run block and the pass block, and those are fine. Can they be worked on? Obviously, but they can be worked on for literally any of these players in this class, including Kenyon Sadiq, who is awesome, by the way. I can't wait to get into talking about him. But yeah, that is going to be about all we say for Jack Andrews. A tight end, as I was looking at him, I wasn't very excited to go through his film and check him out, but he intrigued me, definitely. Not one of the guys who's like a my guy in this draft, but I do like him a lot better than I originally thought, and that makes him my tight end number 6. The Dalton Schultz pro comp, I really like that pro comp a lot. Checked out a couple of different places, websites and such, to see what they were saying pro comps were, and I did think Dalton Schultz was kind of one of the ones that stuck, especially with the receiving skills. As we welcome in my tight end number 5, who maybe has one of the best height weight profiles so far that we've seen, and that is Sam Roche out of Stanford with a 6.30 as we bump about 0.25 points up. basically, if you're talking about the things that Jack Endries does good, it's like Sam Roche does that, but on that next level, like ×5. A prospect that I can easily see going in the 4th or 5th round. 4th round is actually pretty good territory for him. 22 years old, spent all 4 years that I know of playing for Stanford. The 30-inch arms, that's not exactly what you would want to see, and then the 10-inch hands is good, but the 30-inch arms, that's a little bit questionable, but the 6'6", 266 frame kind of makes up for it. If you're a tight end, I haven't really mentioned this before, but the arm length should be about 35 inches across, and the hands should be about 10 to 11 inches, 11 inches being really good. 35 inches is more where you want to go when you're talking about hand profiles, but Sam Roche, not really my favorite player in this draft. In fact, I kind of like a couple players better than him if you're talking about overall just like reaching that potential level and skill set and stuff like that. But for Roche, he does a lot of things really great, so I don't think I can hate on him anymore after I watched him. Another guy where I was like, all right, he's not as bad as I originally thought. He's actually pretty good. He's going up my board. So the B speed is fine, B- excel, C+ agility, C+ change of direction. Actually pretty good for the tight end class to see the C+ change direction and the C+ agility. B+ play strength, plays with some of the better play strength in this draft class. Makes sense for the profile that you see, 6'6", 266. The route running is okay, can be a little bit better. The hands are okay, can be better. The catch in traffic is fine, and the catch radius is good, makes sense for his size and height. The run after catch being a B- on there, and then yeah, just overall a lot of those receiving skills type of things he can work on with the 6'6". He is pretty tall, he is pretty big, he should be able to work on it. And I mean, he has decent sized hands too, so should be able to work on that hand profile, like his actual ability to catch. He obviously can't change his hand size, but then the catch in traffic can be worked on. The catch radius can even grow to be better. I could see it being an A or an A+, depending. But it is a little bit harder with the smaller arms, so maybe we're looking at A- range. But like the receiving skills, they're solid. The athletic tools are solid. But he has some of the best blocking in this class. That's more what he specializes as. That's why we see the comparison to Dawson Knox. I could see a team already having a Dalton Kincaid type of player, and you bring Sam Roche in, and he's your Dawson Knox. The reason he's on the Bills is because he's the blocking specialist. Dalton Kincaid goes out there for the catches, and yes, Sam Roche can do that too. Yeah, as you see before, he's fine at catching. He's got good athletic tools, but he is a great blocker. B for the run block, B+ for the run block strength, B- for the technique, A- for the tenacity. It was really good watching that, and B for the overall pass block. When talking about him, just as I said before, a very well-rounded player. Not as exciting if your team takes him, because obviously they're most likely taking him more for the blocking profile. But still, like I said before, he can go out there and catch the ball too. So Dawson Knox is a good comparison. You're getting a good floor, an even better ceiling. And that's why I do like him a good bit better than a couple of the tight ends in this class. But I do not like him as much as my tight end number 4, obviously, which is why he's my number 5, Michael Trigg. Michael Trigg, before the draft, I'm like, all right, I don't even know who Michael Trigg really is. But he really did end up intriguing me. Another guy that struggles with the blocking, but if you just primarily look at the athletic tools and the receiving skills and the size profile, and also the experience, 5 years playing in college, Michael Trigg is very exciting, and he had a very interesting combine, which kind of bumped him up my board a good bit. So 6'4", 240, that's fine for a tight end, can be a bit better, but that's something that can, at least for the weight, can be worked on. 34.25 inch arm size, 10.5 inch hand size. That's very nice. It's very much what we want to see out of a tight end, and it is probably some of the best in the class. If you're looking at purely the measurables, I do think Michael Trigg is one of the better tight ends in the class. Very exciting when you look at all of that. Although he does have some of the most injury questions out of the tight end class, which is why I couldn't boost his ranking up a little bit more than a 6.65, kind of get him a little bit closer to that 7.0 range. I did end up having to bump him down because of that. But outside of that, and some of the blocking stuff, he is a really nice prospect. 75 overall impact grade, so he has a really good floor and an 88 overall potential grade, which is like, I was surprised that I was even able to give him that grade, but he does compare out to Mike Gesicki for me. Mike Gesicki coming out, once he ended up getting drafted, yes, he's not an amazing blocker, and he struggled with some stuff, but he has really nice measurables. He's a pretty tall guy coming out, and he's able to catch the ball, which is very important for teams. Are they going to use him in the blocking game a little bit? I could see that. I could see him being used more than Mike Gesicki in the blocking game, in fact, but the receiving skills are really why you draft a guy like Michael Trigg, and we'll talk about him right now. Let's get right into them, and we'll go through the athletic tools first with the B+ speed, which is very nice. You know, a couple of the tight ends, a little bit of quicker guys in this class, and that's what you like to see out of a kind of speed tight end threat who can also catch pretty well. B excel, B- agile, C+ for the change of direction, that's fine, and B play strength kind of plays a little bit above his height weight differential. And a player that I'm excited to see what team ends up drafting a guy like Trigg. He's interesting to me. Instead of staying Chigoziem Okonkwo, we'll be saying Michael Trigg. Chigoziem Okonkwo? No. Alright, never mind. I'm going to stop that. That is a stupid joke. Let's get into the receiving skills next. Trigg and Chig, what if they're on the same team? That would be kind of interesting now. Anyways, C+ for the route running. That can definitely be worked on. The B+ hands, very, very nice. You'd expect that for a guy with some big-ass hands, 10.5 inches, 34.25 inch arms. So you expect that. Catch radius is exactly where you'd like to see it. Man, he's able to use that arm size and hand size just to his advantage. The run after catch, really nice. You expect that with the speed. And overall, take a look at just the measurables, take a look at just the athletic tools and receiving skills. This is a guy I could even end up seeing go in the 3rd round. But you do have to take into account the injury history and the blocking as well. The C- run block is okay, but then you look down at the pass block, you're like, damn, he cannot pass block at all, man. D+, I give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt with that. C, run block tenacity, not run black. Run block technique, tenacity. Okay, I can speak. All of those are like average, you know, nothing crazy. So you got to take that into account when talking about a guy like him. Transferred out, formerly played for Ole Miss, so ended up finishing his career with Baylor. He did play for somewhere else before that too, but I am forgetting. It may have been, no, it was not USC. That was somebody else that I'm thinking of that we did last video. But yeah, so he's got experience. He's 23 years old, a bit of an older tight end prospect, but he's fun. I really do like Michael Trigg, and I feel like whatever team ends up drafting him is going to like him too. He's really exciting, and the receiving skills and the athletic tools and that size profile really just make me want to pull the trigger on him, but you gotta watch out for the injury, you gotta watch out for the blocking, and I do end up seeing a very nice ceiling for him that could be Mike Gesicki level. So that is what I have to say about Michael Trigg. And yeah, let's head over to our next prospect, and that is Max Clair, tight end number 3 out of Ohio State. A player that, just like Trigg, struggles with the blocking, but he doesn't have any injury concerns, which is very important. So looking at his profile, you got 6'4", 246, a little bit undersized when it comes to the arm and hands, but at the same time, still very exciting because he plays above that 6'4", 246, and he does play above how big his arms and hands are. So that is something that we will look at. 22 years old, 4 years. I thought they were all spent at Ohio State. No, he actually transferred from Purdue, played his last 2 or maybe his very last season at Ohio State with Julian Sayin now. So rounds 3 to 4 is kind of where I see him. I could see him easily going in round 3. And overall, I do compare him out to a player like Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange kind of coming into his own in Jacksonville with no more Evan Ingram. Could very much see a world where Max Clair is a backup. You know, the tight end 1 on the team goes to another team, and then he kind of starts to flourish as the tight end 1. Going into this, didn't really like Max Clair that much, and then I watched him, and like many of these players, I enjoyed him. I enjoyed seeing that with the 6.80 grade, and then the impact grade gives him a solid floor. So a couple of these guys have very solid floors. It depends on whether they have a solid floor and then like really high potential, or if their potential is like fine. I think that is really where it differentiates, because it's like, do you want to grab a guy who has a solid floor and then, all right, you know, you kind of know what you're getting at certain guys, or do you want to get a guy like Max Clair, a guy like Michael Trigg, where it's like, all right, they have this decent potential in this draft class to kind of reach a bit of a higher ceiling than some of these, you know, lower guys. But looking at the athletic tools, the B+ speed, very nice to see that. The B+ excel, very nice as well. B for the agility, B for the change of direction, C+ for the play strength. Overall, the athletic tools that rounded out, looking very nice. Can work on the play strength, but he is a little bit undersized for a tight end, so it should definitely be worked on. It's probably one of the worst things out of the athletic tools or receiving skills that he does. But then you look at receiving skills, and it's some of the best stuff that he does. Amazing route running with the A. B+ hands. He's able to catch things surprisingly well. The B, catching traffic, pretty decent for the height weight. B+ catch radius, and B+ for the run after catch. The receiving skills is exactly why you draft a player like Max Clair. He's relatively fast, in fact above average with the speed. He can accelerate nicely. He's got great route running. He's got great hands. Like, don't even look at the size profile at this point for a guy like this, because he's just exciting no matter what. Like, even if he's a bit of a mismatch against the defender, who cares? He has all of the skills in the world to make plays happen. And I do very much see some shades of Brenton Strange in him. Yes. Coming out, Brenton Strange, what played for Penn State, was kind of very much underrated coming out, and then still, even going into year one, then now year three, I want to say, or year two, still very underrated. But who knows? You could see a breakout out of him, and he becomes one of the better tight ends in the league. I see that potential for Max Clair. I just really hope he's able to reach it. The blocking all needs to really be worked on. C- for the run block, C- for the run block strength, run block technique, one of the better things he does, and the tenacity as well with a B-. But then the pass block and the run block really struggle some, so got to work on that. But as I said before, if you're drafting this guy, you're drafting him based off receiving skills, athletic tools, and more of like a size profile. And unlike Michael Trigg, doesn't have the injury concerns. Unlike Michael Trigg, is kind of a little bit better with certain aspects of the run block game, or the blocking game as a whole. Although he doesn't have as high as potential as I think a player like Trigg does. So that is Max Clair for you. As we will get into my tight end too, we're really getting into some exciting range here, and that is the stud himself, Eli Stowers. Why is nobody talking about Eli Stowers? Formerly, last year, was like tight end 1 on everybody's board. Very exciting guy. He's going round 1, maybe to the Cincinnati Bengals if they ended up needing a tight end. Like, we didn't know, but he's very exciting, and I still think he's very exciting. Just as we said Brenton Strange before, Eli Stowers compares very well to the Evan Ingram that we saw late in New York and mostly in Jacksonville. So I really like him. I threw the stud icon for him, one of my guys in this class. 7.15 grade, so we're getting into kind of that stud that, not the green is more of a good tier, and then the light blue is more of like that stud, that great tier. And for me, Eli Stowers, there's no question that he's a great prospect. 6'4", 239. The size, and then the size, height, arm and hand profile, you know, nothing crazy as we've seen for the past like couple prospects. But still, I don't really even look at that. I'm looking over it as athletic tools and receiving skills, and you see blues across the board, and that is exactly what you want to see. Played formerly at New Mexico State. I want to say he ended up playing somewhere else before that. I just couldn't include it on the graphic. Give him a 77 overall impact grade and a 90 overall potential grade. You are getting a great floor out of Stowers, and he has a great ceiling, whatever team ends up drafting him. Really, really like Stowers. I cannot say it enough. Rounds 2 to 3, give him the value. I do think he ends up going in round 3, but I think it's completely fine if you end up taking him back end of round 1 or the middle of round, or not the back end of round 1, back end of round 2 or the middle of round 2. But I could see him going anywhere from 2 to 3. As we get into him, the 7.15 grade, you might be surprised, but yeah, that's kind of where I had him at. So, talking about him, we will look A- speed, very fast, one of the fastest tight ends in this class. A- in the excel department, B+ agility, B+ change of direction. Some of the best change of direction you'll see out of a tight end, which is something they don't need, but is still very exciting. C+ for the play strength, can be a little bit better. One of his weaker points. And then as we turn over the receiving skills, an A- for the route running, B+ for the hands, B+ catch and traffic, A- catch radius, and an A run after the catch, which is awesome. Look at him, 6'4", 239, and he's doing this shit. The run after the catch is even better than you'd expect for his speed and his excel. Very nice with the A grade. The catch radius is better than you'd expect for his arm and hand size and his height. And the catch in traffic is really nice as well, comparing that to the height, weight, and the arm hand profile. The hands are really nice for the like little bit of undersizedness that they are. So look at the receiving skills, look at the athletic tools. If you're looking at the blocking department, he is another tight end where you're not really going to draft him for blocking. While he still has the ability to block, he is a very poor pass blocker. I will say that. And not the best run blocker in the world. Not the best with his strength, technique. These can all be worked on. Like I said, the sky is the limit for a player like Stowers. And really, really have been for a while now excited to talk about him. I was thinking about grading him a little bit closer to my number one tight end. Who can obviously guess who that is at this point, but still. But, yeah. Don't look at the blocking profile too much. I wouldn't be worried about that. It's things that definitely need to be worked on once he gets to the league, but receiving and athletic-wise, he is set. Even end up, I wouldn't even say convert him to wide receiver. He has more of a tight end profile, but he's almost like a wide receiver on a tight end's body, but a little bit of like a taller wide receiver in the end. So give him that pro comp of Evan Ingram. Mostly thinking about his Jacksonville era. And as I said before, really love Stowers. Really excited to see where he ends up landing. It's going to be not too scheme dependent wherever he ends up going, but it should be very fun to see that and very fun to see what he looks like, especially when it comes to fantasy football. So I think that's something that we got to look out for, is seeing him do nice. Welcome on in, my number one with a 7.50 overall grade, and that is Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. We're going to have some fun players this season, including Emmanuel Pregnon, who we talked about in the last video. Kenyon Sadiq, 6'3", 245. Very, very nice with the height, weight profile. Actually not. Why did I say that? I don't know. I was just kind of on auto mode. 6'3", 245, a little bit under what you would like to see out of a tight end, but I'm not really worried about it. So, 31 and a fifth for the inches. So, the arm, hand, height, and weight profile, a little bit low. That is kind of the thing that a lot of people have been riffing on him recently. But I don't think you entirely look at that. I think you got to look at the prospect overall and think about how he did at Oregon. He is 21 years old, 3 years of experience playing at Oregon, a very young player, and that's why you take him in this draft. The same reason I was talking about, I want to say somebody in the last video, very, very young player. And who was it? I think it was Vega Ione, who was very young. Tight ends in the league last for a long time as well. So you're taking him top 10 with the expectancy that this guy will be your franchise tight end for the long term. And if he reaches his ceiling, Vernon Davis, I threw a pro comp. That's what everybody's been throwing around. I do see the shades of it. And you get a very, very nice floor out of him with the impact grade. You get a incredible potential grade. You got to take a chance on a guy like Kenyon Sadiq. I give him the top 10 draft value. I threw him with a similar grade as Fernando Mendoza, a guy who's... People are like kind of blowing it out of the water with a 40 time that he showed. I don't think he's the best tight end to ever come out of the draft or anything like that, but I do think he's a very special tight end who is very exciting to watch. So let's get into his profile before I continue to glaze him. But the 7.50 grade, meaning he's just like the best of his class. He's not insane, but I could see a team taking him where it would fit well, and I could see him being a really, really nice player, such as Vernon Davis was. So A+ for the speed, best speed in the class. A+ for the excel, best excel in the class. A agility, best agility in the class. A change of direction, best change of direction in the class. Need I say more after that? Change of direction is actually insane. If we are talking about a wide receiver in a tight end's body, or more like it's a tight end in a wide receiver's body, we're talking about Kenyon Sadiq, no doubt about it. The B play strength is completely fine. In fact, better than you would expect for a guy of his profile. But the change of direction, really fun to watch. He is kind of making mismatches on all types of defenders because they're expecting a big-ass tight end coming at them who's not that fast. And Kenyon Sadiq is fucking fast as shit with the A+ speed and A+ excel. So you'd be surprised watching some of the tape. You're like, damn, he is a mismatch, a massive mismatch for defenders. Despite not being that big, despite not having the biggest arms in the world, he still has very solid catch radius. A B is very solid for a guy of his profile. The B+ route running is nice to see. B- hands, it's fine. It's kind of expected, but you know that can be worked on. You should be able to catch the ball a little bit better. B+ with the catch in traffic, pretty solid to be able to catch in traffic for his size. And then the A run after the catch is something you definitely expect with how fast he is. And then, as I said before, catch radius and hands could be something that could easily be worked on. So he definitely has his faults. I'm not saying he's the most clean tight end prospect. I'm not saying he's the best ever. But he is really exciting. And whatever team he ends up going to, whether that's the Denver Broncos or the Carolina Panthers or the Philadelphia Eagles, he is going to make waves on, and he's going to be very exciting. So then we take a look over at the run blocking with the C+. C- can definitely be worked on while still being a little bit better. In fact, a lot better than some of the guys throughout this class. With the B for the tenacity, C+ for the technique, and a B- for the strength, which is totally makes sense for the size profile. But yeah, guys, that is all my tight ends for this class. I was, as I said before, only going to do my top 5, but then I kind of saw some of the guys later down the board. I was like, all right, we'll add them in. Let's see how it ends up looking. And no matter what, Kenyon Sadiq was always my number 1. Absolute beast of a player. As I said before, very excited to see where he goes. I value him around the top 10. But, you know, in a different type of draft class where a lot of teams were really tight end needy, I could see him going in like the top 8 range. But top 10 to 15 is kind of where I see him going. And I would love a team like my Philadelphia Eagles to end up getting him. And you know what? I would even, with the 7.50 grade, I would bump it down to a little bit more of a top 15 draft value. So I might go on there and tweak that. But no matter what team, it really doesn't matter where he goes. He is going to be a monster. If you're interested in fantasy football as well, draft this guy. Doesn't matter where he goes. He should be, you know, a top 5 to 7 tight end in his first year. Should be a perfect pickup for your dynasty leagues as well. So that is Kenyon Sadiq. Made a lot of waves in his 3 years at Oregon, and is exciting to see that he is heading to the NFL to make some waves there too. So that is going to be all for me for today, guys. I did actually enjoy looking through this tight end class. Same with the running back and quarterback class, more than I expected. Obviously, you know, it's not the best in the world, but each guy has their own unique skill set, and looking through each of them, you know, it's kind of fun to see that. It's fun to see where they're going to end up fitting. And it's good to just know more about the draft as well. I hope this informed you guys a little bit more about what is going on with the draft, who the players are, because I didn't even know these guys that well before looking into this. But that is going to be all for me for today, guys. I will see you guys in the next ranking video, as we've covered the entirety of the offensive side of the ball. We are going to head over to the defense. Yes, we are going to look at my top 10 edge rushers for the 2026 NFL Draft. Very excited to get into that. I have all the grades done, and that will be the next video. But until then, I will catch you guys, and if you enjoyed this, feel free to like, subscribe. Let me know if you disagree, agree down below, and I will see you guys all for that video. Peace.